How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with another key topic to get into because, look, we know the Mets have sold. They are done. The 2023 season has basically come to an end, even though we've known that for quite a bit now. Yes, they're going to be playing. Yes, they're going to try their best, but the reality is the club isn't good. And we've heard a lot of interesting opinions from Max Scherzer after being dealt, Billy Epler after making moves, and now the man at the helm himself is Steve Cohen. What is the Mets' plans for the future in 2024 and beyond? Are they going to be punting? Are they not? Well, Steve Cohen did come out yesterday in a presser, a great interview, and really broke down a lot of things that the Mets fans had some questions of, get some clarity on, and the biggest highlight of it all is that the Mets are not going to be punting 2024 the way that many fans initially expected after we heard Max Scherzer's remarks, in which saying that, yeah, you know, the Mets are not in a position for 2024 where they're going to be going all in. And while that may be true, there is something to be said about Billy Epler and Steve Cohen's approach to not only Scherzer, but Verlander, given their contract statuses and what the Mets want to do for the upcoming season. So we have a lot to get into, but before I do, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you're new or reoccurring. Happy to have you guys join the community as always. But before we go further into the video, I have to let you guys all know about today's sponsor, that being Mojo Sportsbook. Mojo Sportsbook is the live betting stock market that's based out of New Jersey. So if you are a New Jersey resident and you are a Mets fan, then listen up because this is for you. Every bet on Mojo offers live trading so you can get in and get out all game long. It's stock trading meets sports betting with money lines, player props, and a whole new career-long bet they've created. So unlike what you see with other safe sportsbooks where you just bet on the money lines and K props, which you can certainly do here once you have great odds here at Mojo Sportsbook by clicking the link in the description, signing up today. However, what they also have is your ability to invest in players. So today's video is based around Shohei Ohtani. You can actually invest into Shohei Ohtani. You can invest into Francisco Alvarez. You can invest into whatever player you want for real dollars right now, and then you can buy low if, say, someone is hurt or not doing well. You can buy high if someone is high rolling and you know that his peak is going to be even higher than what it currently is. That is how you can invest in these players, but instead of investing, you can also do the money lines, the K props in very similar fashion as I just discussed. But the best part of this all is that you're in total control of your bets. Unlike other sports books in which you say don't get a great cash out option, you're always getting the best available cash out option possible here with Mojo Sportsbook. So all you need to do is download the app today, clicking the link in the description of this video, using my promo code WardyNYM, that is WARDNYM, for a 20% deposit match up to $100. Again, that is WardyNYM for a 20% deposit match up to $100. And shout out to Mojo Sportsbook for being a great sponsor on the channel. Now let's get into it. Let's talk about the news. So again, Steve Cohen had his presser yesterday. So many of you guys chiming in, watching, as did I. The Mets, of course, have lost already back-to-back games since the trade deadline. It colored me surprised. You know, we're going to focus not only on post-game shows, but because the games aren't going to be as entertaining, we're also going to focus on some individual video content to try to balance things for you guys. And this is a really key, really important topic to get into because Steve Cohen, after his remarks that he came out with, made it abundantly clear the Mets are going to be a competitive team in 2024. Now, initially, when we saw the trade deadline transpire, you're wondering, okay, the Mets are full-on sellers, so they're not going to do anything next year. We're just focused on 2025 and beyond. That is the farthest thing from the truth. And what Steve really emphasized is that, yes, I had a discussion with Max Scherzer, and when Max asked me if I'm going to go all in on all the top names in free agency, I couldn't guarantee that because I'm not going to do that. Yes, we're going to be buying players, and yes, we plan to be very competitive for 2024. However, we're not going to go in with the same exact type of spending philosophy that we had, in which now we're eating all this dead weight of money with Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer. I mean, even in his first year as owner, we're looking at James McCann, and he's eating the Cano contract. Like, all these factors come into play. He can't act like a quote-unquote drunken sailor, which he has done his best not to, but the point stands here. This is a Steve Cohen that's so unbelievably smart with his money. There's a reason why he's worth $18 billion. It's almost like the guy knows a thing or two about money and how to handle it and really be good with his financial management, if you will, right? So Cohen evaluated the Mets this year. He said, look, at the end of the day, I had my little interview. I spoke to the press. I said, if the Mets are not better within a month, I'm not going to be buying because the odds were around 15, if not 12% for the Mets to make playoffs. That's not a smart thing to invest on. And again, this is why Cohen is the smart owner that he is. This is why he's so great in his day job with .72. So you evaluate this as nice to have a rational, level-headed owner that actually knows, hey, let's not act like idiots here. Let's not go all in when we know this team isn't going anywhere this year. It's not worth it. The potential risk far outweighs the reward here. So it's just just not worth our time. I cannot bank on hope when making these decisions. They need to be calculated. They need to be worthwhile. You know, maybe if the Mets were in a playoff position of at least 50, 60% of making playoffs is a different discussion. However, that was not the case. So he sits down with Max. He sits down with JV. He tells him how it is. Look, we are in a position right now where 2024, we're going to be in more of a transition year. It doesn't mean that we're not going to be competing, because we are. However, I cannot guarantee that we're going in with, say, World Series aspirations, expectations. You know, Francisco Lindor has spoken glowingly about his discussions with both Epler and Cohen, as has other players, saying, you know, I'm all in. I'm excited for the future, and I know that this team is doing everything they possibly can to better themselves to be a good club next year. That being the front office, led by Epler, led by Cohen. So I'm all in, and I hope you guys are too, that being the fans. And I know I am. Look, no matter what, I'm always going to be following this club, and I just hope that we see some consistent baseball, right? Because the Mets did not get that this year. I know Cohen's happy about it. Cohen does not take these things lightly. What, you think the type of businessman that he is, that he's going to just sit on his hands and not be happy, basically, with everything that's transpired? I know on the inside he's pissed off, as he should. He looked pissed off over a month ago when he did his presser. When I was watching, I was pissed off, because I'm like, you and I are on the same wavelength, Steve. The only difference between you and I when it comes to fandom is that, you know, you're worth $18 billion. I'm worth, you know, $5 on a good day. So I think the point I'm trying to make here is that you heard the comments made to Max, in which he, of course, publicly said he's one of the faces of the players union. I don't know if this is going to impact the Mets negatively come the offseason. It wouldn't shock me if it does. However, you see that the Mets approach this a certain way, right? And you know that the Mets are a team where they were never going to be entering 2024 spending the way that they were in heading into 2023 and even into 2022. The Mets would not be able to do this every single year, and Steve Cohen made that abundantly clear from the start. And if we evaluate everyone that the Mets have parted with from the trade deadline, there's only one player that truly would have maybe had a ginormous impact, and that was Justin Verlander. Max Scherzer, who knows, because he's deteriorating by the day. At the time of recording this, he already gave up 3 earned runs in the first, including walking in a run in his Texas Rangers debut. So great start, Max. Wishing you all the best there in Texas. Yeehaw. But I really want to get back to this point here for a second, that the Mets right now, as they stand, not a great baseball club. They have plenty of pieces, but they need to work on that. Come the offseason, we know that they're going to be buying. It's to what degree? And there were a lot of initial scares and beliefs that, oh my goodness, the Mets they're not going to be buying. They're not going to be trading for players. They're just going to sit on their hands and do nothing for 2024. Again, that is the farthest thing from the truth. The Mets' expectations heading into 2024 are going to be very similar, in my opinion, to how they were heading into 2022. A team that is destined to hopefully make playoffs and see what happens from there. What did the Mets do in 2022? They exceeded all expectations. Yes, they fell flat on their face, and yes, big game pitchers like Max Scherzer were a great example of that. However, the point stands. The Mets did not have World Series expectations heading into 2022 the way that they did with 2023. They built that up by really having a phenomenal, all things considered, a strong 100-plus win season in 2022. So they're going to head into 2024 with a solid team. Hopefully on paper it's looking strong. Will not be looking on paper as the best team in the division for sure. Will not be looking as, you know, probably a top 5 team in baseball. However, they're going to give the kids the leash. They're going to give some kids some key opportunities. They're going to be making some free agent signings. I've already heard rumblings that the Mets really, really like the idea of bringing in a Julio Urias, for example, this offseason. You know, do I think the Mets are going to land Shohei Ohtani? We're going to talk about it, but I think he's destined to go to LA. And I think that those are the type of big fishes where, unless Steve says, F it, I'm going to be Steve Cohen, I'm going to be a madman and go all in and throw a $600 million bag at him, for example, we can't get our hopes up on those things. But what we can do is know that we do have an owner that is committed to trying to help this team now and in the future. And he gave a lot of credit to Billy Epler, and justifiably so. Look, we have not been happy with a lot of moves that Billy Epler has made, but given the circumstances, knowing that the Mets were committing to selling, he did nothing short of a phenomenal job completely reshaping the Mets farm, turning this farm, you know, literally over a year's work of upgrading this farm he did in a week span. That is not an easy thing to do. And that's the luxury that the Mets have when an owner that's willing to eat 40, 50 millions of dollars of a contract to a Max Scherzer, to a Justin Verlander, just for the sake of bettering the farm and bettering the club, not only for next year, but in the years going forward. The prospects that the Mets landed have oodles amount of potential, and you have to be excited about that if you're a fan. And more than anything, I'm still excited about this club. Yes, this year is a wash. I'm fully aware of that. I cannot be locked in the way that I normally am with them, but come the offseason, this is going to be a very interesting thing to follow, how the Mets go about things. How do they operate? Because at the end of the day, this is a club that has aspirations, and Cohen said it himself. I don't want to settle for just playoffs. I want more than that. He's like, and I wholeheartedly believe that this team is going to be competitive next season. And look, the players need to wake up too. Cohen openly said, hey, I'm not going to put all the blame on Buck here because this really lands on the players and their lack of performance. And he's 100% right. And he also said, we're not going to have necessarily the star-studded team that we've had, but that's because just because you have stars doesn't mean that amounts to success. It's kind of, not a shot at JV or Max, but just because you have these big name players doesn't mean that they're going to work. We saw that full-fledged, full hand this season with how this team collapsed right before our very eyes. And, you need young and upcoming talent. You look at the Braves, you look at so many other great teams in baseball, the Dodgers too. They build through the farm and they call up guys that, maybe they weren't a top prospect initially, but they ball out for them right away. And the Mets do have some really key top prospects that they want to continue to give leashes to. And the Alvarez's, the Beatties, the Vientoses, Ronnie Mauricio's of the world, just to name a few, before we get on to, of course, more down the line, and the Paradas and all the great young talent that the Mets acquired at this trade deadline. Luis Angel Acuna, for example, that was the first move. And then, of course, you got the guys from the Astros. You got Marco Vargas, a really exciting prospect in the David Robertson deal. The list goes on and on, but you can understand where I'm getting at here. The Mets want to put themselves in a position where they can be competitive, but also be a club that, again, will have a future that you're looking good on and have assets that you can start to trade away. So let's say hypothetically the Mets are looking around a playoff team or close to at the trade deadline next year. They will be in a better position to part with said assets should they wish to maybe get a younger, controllable, dominant player or multiple players to really upgrade that team next season should they wish around the trade deadline. Look, the Chicago Cubs, a great example of a team with youth and also veteran leadership. Heading into the season, I don't think anyone expected them to be making a playoff push by the trade deadline, and here we are. They did exactly that. So just one thing to note, many examples. Point being, yes, I'm heartbroken that this team fell flat on its face this year. It'll always bother me. It'll be what could have been basically. And again, it's a laughing stock of a club in 2023 is what it amounted to be. But the point still stands here that this is a club that hopefully is going to be set in the right direction now and something that we're going to be following intensely. We're going to be covering every single move. We're going to be covering every single signing, trade, any type of rumor. That this is a place to be here in WardyNYM that we are going to be getting into, guys. A lot is on the horizon for the Mets and their future. 2023 season is basically done. It is out of here. But to suggest that the Mets are punting 2024, which you're seeing a lot of clickbaity headlines by schmucks that don't know what they're talking about, didn't even bother to hear Cohen out, didn't bother to hear what else is going on. It's just the farthest thing from the truth. The Mets are going to be a competitive team next year. And for all we know, they may very likely even be a better team than what we've seen this year, because granted, it's a low bar. I have a feeling that with the lack of expectation, the Mets are going to thrive the same way that they thrived in 2022 for a long period of time. Again, let's not forget the type of lower moves the Mets made. Yes, a Marte, but Marte, Canna, Escobar. I mean, these guys aren't the most star-studded names. However, that they all had significant impacts on the Mets in 2022 to varying degrees, right? Their rotation, Chris Bassett, Taijuan Walker. What, you think these guys are star-studded? No, they're not, but they were innings eaters and they got the job done. David Pearson had a revelation of a season in 2022, right? Trevor Williams was so great as a long reliever in the pen. You basically won the majority of the season without Jacob deGrom and a Max Scherzer that dealt with an oblique injury. Max, when healthy, was great up until down the stretch when it mattered most, but the Mets had a lot of adversity in 2022 and they still overcame those odds so much for the vast majority of the season. What I'm trying to get at here one more time, folks, is that you do not need to have the prettiest team on paper to have success. You need to give the kids a leash, and you need to make sure that you're conserving some money, not going all in every single year, because that's not what Cohen is trying to build here. He wants to build a team with sustained success, so that way when guys are, say, up for contracts, and the interesting one now is Pete Alonso that we'll be getting into a lot on. Make sure to check out my recent video on that. I know the Mets would like Pete to stay here, but they need to reach an extension should that happen more than likely this offseason. But the Mets want to put themselves in a position where they don't need to guarantee to lock up all their guys long term. The same way the Dodgers don't. The Dodgers didn't lock up Trey Turner. The Dodgers did not lock up many players in years past, and yet they've had continued success. Why? Because they built a great farm and have guys in premier positions that can step up and impact them year after year right away. That is what Cohen is trying to build, and hopefully they will find themselves in a unique but also prosperous and exciting, low expectation, but really blossoming and exceeding those expectations for 2024 and beyond. So Mets fans, fans, I want to know how you're feeling in the comments below about Steve Cohen's remarks. Make sure to check out his little interview that he did yesterday at the time of recording this if you have not already. And how are you feeling about the Mets as a whole currently with not only 2023, 2024, 2025, short-term and long-term vision, whatever it is, make sure to drop them down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's your boy Wardy. Stay tuned for consistent content. As always, either post-game shows, recaps, or some more individual content, because again, this season, it means that I'm likely not going to be doing as active post-game shows as I've been throughout the year because, you know, for obvious reasons, but I will be trying to chug them out as much as I can while enjoying the remainder of the summer that I have with some great family. So thank you guys so much. Love you all to death. And as always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.